This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Hey there, it's Michelle, and I want to help you to live an epic story lifestyle. So, I'd like for you to do me a favor. Go over to epicstorylifestyle.com/live life to grab a free copy of my Hacks for Living an Epic Story Lifestyle checklist. Thanks.
You are listening to Epic Story Lifestyle. Here is your host, Michelle Spiva.
Hey, JR, how you doing?
I am doing awesome. I'm having a lot of fun rapping with you, and I know you got some cool stuff in store for us today.
Yeah, I especially like my title. I know it's whatever, but I think that it was a cool title for what I want to talk about today. And so I'm naming this one Dance Puppet Dance. Welcome to your mind. So this last few podcasts, I've been talking about some of the books that have been really influencing my path of thinking. And I've been reading this book titled How to Read a Book. Now, this book was originally put together in 1940. That was before my mom was alive. So, well before when she was alive. And the funny thing is I was just looking at it. It's a big book. It really is. But let me just say, I'll just say the names of the authors, just so you can know the time in which this book was put together. So the authors of this book are named Mortimer J. Adler, and Charles Van Doren. Yes, that is their names. Good old Mortimer and Charles. So, but it's a classic. And I have, the good thing is both of us, we are bibliophiles. We love books. We love the knowledge in them. And I really like some of the things that they put forth in this book because it's timeless. It's ageless. Like, for instance, the writers say that, at the time when they were writing, television and radio were still fairly new to them. And so they were making a rah-rah why and you need to learn how to read a book because they said something really interesting. What they said was programming, television programming, radio programming is that. It is programming. It is set up for you not to think. It is set up for you to be entertained blindly. Whereas a book is set up for you to think, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. When you read a book, it is set up for you to think, whether you have to process the facts that are being given in the nonfiction or set up an imagination to be able to visualize and enjoy the story that's being presented. I don't want to say you really can't, but they were saying it's really hard to program someone the way television and radio, and I'm going to add today videos, program us. And I just have to pause right there. JR, is that as profound to you as it is to me?
I find it and I know where you're going with this, so I don't want to spoil anything, but I do find it super interesting. So I might have more to say later because I don't want to step on your story.
Oh, no worries. So I titled this podcast Dance Puppet Dance, Welcome to Your Mind, because they went even further. So when this book, and I recently did a training with some of my fiction writing people on research and how I look at research. And one of the things I talked about was know your audience, know the timing. And so the reason why I keep harping on the fact that this book was originally written in the 40s and then in 1972 is because when this book was first written, we were in the throes as a nation and as a world as propagandists. It was a free-for-all. You have to remember, turn of the century, Edward Bernays, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, had helped to pioneer how to turn the masses' wills into the desires and wants that you chose. And thus it trickled down, and even Hitler read the works of Edward Bernays and how he crafted his movement for the Nazi Party and all of that. And by the time the 40s are coming, it's at the ripe part, because 1939 has happened, and they're, the forces and the Allies and all this. So they're writing this in a time when there is a heightened need, and not even a need as much as there is a drive to program people, right? And they're saying, read a book, and this is how you do it. And don't you want to read a book? Because you don't have to worry about getting programmed. But after they say this in the 40s, and they come back in the 70s, and this is why I like the fact that I got this book, the 72 edition, they had taken it a step further. So in the 40s, they're dealing with propaganda, they're dealing with programming and all of this. And they're right in the era where it is at the height of crowd behavior, herd mentality, and all of that, where the programming is there to attack the desires and indoctrinate people with the need that you need to keep up with the Joneses. You must have a car every 2 years. You need to be patriotic. Now I'm gonna zigzag a little bit here. Some of the stuff happening right now in our time about patriotism is because of propaganda that happened back in this time. I'm not going to get into all of that. I'm going to pique people's interest to go do your own research to figure out what I'm talking about. I'll say that. But the reason why you believe the way you do today, for whatever country you may be in listening to this, is the grandchild of the stuff that was happening back then. Okay, so now let me get back on that. So now, in this 1972 edition of How to Read a Book, they did something that I thought was quite brilliant. They said, okay, we talked about programming and how reading a book, you don't have to worry about programming. But this is another thing that they brought up. And when I read it, I had to put the book down and just actually let it meditate and not let it meditate, let it sit there and just really get deep down into my soul. And they said that now we're dealing with prepackaged intellectual views. That is mind-blowing, mind-blowing, because we went from a progression of just programming you because we think you're dumb, stupid sheep and herd, to now you have become not even sheep, herd, or living thing. You are now just a feeder. We just look at you as energy. Think about the Matrix. Remember the Matrix, the whole premise about people being turned into batteries for these people?
Yeah.
They were saying this in the 1970s. In 1972, meaning that they probably wrote it around 1970. They were saying that we had now moved to prepackaged intellectual views where they tell you how to form your intelligence. So they didn't even trust you to allow your own brain to have its logical pathways of how it comes up to a conclusion. No. It's not enough to appeal to your primal urge to want and desire something. Now I'm going to dictate not how you think, because how you think is different from your intelligence. I don't care how you think, as long as I know that I've set the deck for you to think the way I want. So now I'm going to prepackage my intellectual views so that you must come up to the conclusion that I want you to intellectually. Boom. JR, are you sensing this impact this has on me? I'm reading this, and I'm actually reading this almost 50 years after the second edition of what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
And it's so potent and pertinent, so pertinent today that, dance puppet, I need to reintroduce you to your mind, I'm talking to me, because I'm so busy, worried, and concerned about someone trying to mess with my desires that I have been letting them, with full reign, mess with my free will of how I will think. Not the conclusion of my thoughts, but even just the process by which I think. I mean, I'm talking about, and I said I want to bring this up when I talk to you about it, but I'm talking about they mess with the way we perceive logic. You know, the process from getting to, if Mary is a female and Mary wears a dress, then all females should wear a dress. I mean, let's think about it. We actually have that right now going on around the world because of how our logic has been indoctrinated in us for so many years that we're running those old programs that says if Mary is female and Mary likes dresses, then all females must wear dresses. AKA who gets to use a bathroom, AKA what folks can wear. I mean, all this stuff. And we don't even realize that it was implantation that has been happening for over half a century. And it is because it is prepackaged intellectual views that are disseminated through mass media and through regurgitation within society of how we should be. I did a show last month on how to handle criticism once you start this epic story lifestyle. And I think for a lot of people to live an epic story lifestyle is to wake up and start looking at how your intelligence works. Tip every cow in your brain, every sacred cow in your brain. And, start to ask yourself, why do I process and get to the conclusions I get to? One of the things that I have found that has been revolutionary for me in the last 5 years is when I finally came to peace with the fact that my beliefs should be flexible. My truths should be a little more firm, but my beliefs should be flexible enough to handle things that are different, things that are outside of the norm. And I really believe that was probably a setup for where I am now, and where this podcast is coming from. Because if I hadn't even done that, I wouldn't even know to think about the possibility of even thinking that the way I process and my intelligence may have been due to a prepackaged view that was given to me over and over again. Jared, what do you think about that? Because I really am not trying to say we're brainwashed. I'm not. I really am not. I'm trying to say that I think it's up to the epic story lifestyle person to have a life examined for this, to make your quest of what you think, make your attack on it be a worthy enough opponent for your brain. That is so powerful. I'm going to get back to my question to you, but I did see a little snippet that says that scientists have tried to quantify how much capacity we have in our brains, and they came up with one petabyte, which is 1,000,000 gigabytes or something like that. So anyway, you have to be a worthy opponent to come up to your intelligence and say, I challenge you to think differently. You know? So what do you think about this whole idea, of prepackaged intellectual views and how it impacts our intelligence for a person that wants to have an epic story lifestyle?
One of the things I think is really interesting about these guys is the idea of propaganda, and after that fell out of favor, it became PR. And that's a whole job, right? Is to influence our thoughts. And it makes me think of the movie Inception, where they plant a seed of a thought, and we've had now 80 years to make that seem like it's our idea. And that's what the whole marketing and propaganda and all that stuff. I would be someone who would say you are brainwashed if you're not going out and realizing that this stuff is going on. So I'm glad that you're bringing this up and shining a light on it and telling people, hey, stay curious, do your own due diligence, find out for yourself what's going on.
Yeah, now I know that I have been touting my love-hate relationship with the internet, but one thing I do like about the internet, any kooky kind of concept I think I can come up with, somebody out there is thinking the same thing. And so I've been doing some research on a new series that I'm putting together. It has to be a high concept series that I want an agent to work with me on. And so my rabbit trail brought me down to holograms. And one of the concepts that I found was that there are some people that believe that all of this is just a hologram of another reality, that this is just a dream state and that this is really not the real thing. And I was like, well, I keep going back to that sounds like the Matrix and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know what I believe about it because like I said, I'm allowing my beliefs to be more flexible now so that I can hold more than one belief at the same time and deal with them. But what I will say is this, is that doing that and looking at the fervor in which these people are saying it, wherever there is a lot of passion, it has been sparked by some type of awakening of consciousness, point blank. You can look through the ages for the religiousness. When Martin Luther went and nailed his treatise to the door of the church, and basically that's the reason why we have Protestants and Catholics now. It was because of this fervor, and that he was like, you guys are not the intermediaries between us and God, and how dare you, and we can go directly to God, we can be our own advocates, and that began the great splitting of the universal church, to where now you have Protestants and Catholics, right? Or in the Christendom. I know there are other religions out there, but for the sake of time I'll talk about those. And so I see this fervor that these people have as another proverbial nailing your proclamations to a door and saying you do not have to think the way someone says you have to think to be counted as sane. That's the biggest thing I want to say, that now this intellectual, prepackaged intellectualism viewpoint, it's almost as where it's saying, if you don't believe this way, then you are insane. You are not norm. You are other. Your belief systems are whacked. So there is an embarrassment, shame factor to it, to dare to do this, because you don't fit in. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is that there is a hypnotic inducement, a hypnotic trance that lulls you into believing that this is totally peacefully the way you should be. And I've even looked at when to know, whether or not this is meditative or if this is a drug, and how much we should be looking at, am I a puppet? Am I dancing? When is the last time I introduced myself to my mind and saw what was going on in there, and how the inputs of my given day, have been sitting in there, festering, manifesting, or creating or doing something. I really believe there is something to why we have the statistics we have of people falling into quote unquote clinical depressions in epidemic levels now. Anyway, it's been amazing, and we don't have a lot of time to really go into everything. So what I just want to say is, my me moment is that for me, I'm doing my mental yearly cleaning. I don't even want to say yearly because I tend to do it just when I feel like I need to do it, and I'm investigating the processes and why I believe the way I believe, and how did I come up to that thought, and is there room for more? And I'll even owe it to the kangaroo court that is our political landscape right now, that is our financial situation right now, and our social interaction with each other. In upcoming episodes, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the difference between, like I said, the difference between knowing if this is peacefully induced by you or if it's a drug administered by somebody else. It matters. So anyway, that's what I have today, and thank you so much for letting me ramble today.
Good
I appreciate
stuff.
it, JR.
I've got some new books to pick up, so I appreciate that, Michelle, as always. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will be back next time.
Yay!
Hey, Michelle here again. If you like today's show, remember to go to iTunes and in the search bar, type Epic Story Lifestyle. And when you see me, hit that subscribe button. If you really like today's show, hey, come on, do me a solid by giving a rating and a review. If you've got questions, comments, or even show topics you'd like to hear me cover in the future, tell me about them when you leave that wonderful review. All right, my time is up, and I thank you for yours. See you next time. Now go out, make some great decisions that give you that epic story lifestyle.
This is the podcastfactory.com.